You're watching Newsx. I am Rishabh Gulati. Ladies and gentlemen, the months have ticked on. The year has turned, and as we look into the second quarter of 2025, we now need to figure out, amid the dramatic developments which are simply news and discussion points, for the people of India living in Manipur, who have to face it on a day-to-day basis, what can be done to help them help themselves? We now need to move from conversation into action. We've seen the resignation of a chief minister. We've seen president's rule. We are seeing shutdown calls that are going on. We are still seeing violence. We are still seeing unfortunate scenes. And the only thing that we now need to do, and the small role that we in the media here can play, is to keep focus and keep the conversation going. There is a solution to all of this. It is possible. We just need to get it done. We have to understand the pain. We have to understand the complexity, and with a lot of patience, but with purpose, figure out what we need to do next. It's not an easy conversation. Trust me, I've been trying to have it for the past 18 months, but that doesn't mean we give up trying to have it. Let's pick up this conversation in the scope of developments that have taken place in the last 24 hours, visuals of which, unfortunate as they are, you're seeing on your screens. There are demonstrators, there are stone pelting going on, buses are being burned. There is, as I mentioned, an indefinite shutdown. People have been injured, including security personnel, 30 of whom have been injured in the past 2 days. Let's pick up this conversation. Major General Sudhakar ji on the broadcast with us. Payol Chauba, Executive Editor of the Frontier Manipur, who's a Meitei journalist, joining us on the broadcast. Vishwadit Singh is joining us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Chauba, let me start with you, sir. If you can help us understand the situation from how you are, from the feedback information that you're getting.
See, what really happened yesterday was something which we all expected, that there will be a lot of opposition. However, the onus is on the Home Minister. The date that he had fixed, March 8, and he had fixed a particular date. It is known by everyone that there is a lot of problems still, even with the president rules in effect. But the deliberations done by the top staff, by the top brass at Delhi, there should be more consideration on what would be the possible outcomes. It is everyone's knowledge that the Meiteis can't go to the hills, and the hills, especially the Kukis, can't come to the valley. So that has been going on for so long, and you can just say, like, on date 8, you can just pass along the Kuki dominated highways. That is one issue. But then, even if the decision was to be taken, the stakeholders, including the different communities, the Nagas, the Meitei Pangals, etc., those who are residing in Manipur should have been taken into consideration. There could have been meetings going on, and after that, something could have been planned just to ease out things, just to cut the problems which are happening right now.
Okay.
You just can't solve it in one day.
Okay, so let's take it step by step. So, because I am not doubting intent for a second. I am not doubting intent of the people from Delhi trying to solve the problem, the people there who are experiencing the problem, and the people especially who are living the issue, because this is a day-to-day issue. It's okay for us to be discussing it from my TV studio, 1,000 kilometers away. But for the people who actually can't step out of their house, who are actually worrying about school and day-to-day necessity, it's an issue that we're living in. So now we draw the assumption that we do it step by step. So, sir, the current establishment of the chief ministership is now vacant. We have president's rule. Now, what are the couple of things that you would like to see? And I'm going to draw the assumption that everybody's intent and purpose is the same. We need to figure this out. What would you like to see happen?
Is the question directed to me?
Yes, Mr. Chauba, go ahead.
See, I think Mr. Ajay Kumar Bhalla, governor, has got his hands full. So much damage has been done There's so much leakage in our system. The economy is down. I mean, like inflation is highest in India, Manipur. So there's a lot of things that the governor, in consultation with all the other central leaders, president, the cabinet, they have to take things into account. What can be done over here? We have so much security forces here, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 plus. So there's enough people, security forces, which can control anything here in Manipur. So if we want, everyone will want at least restoration of law and order for Manipur to develop more. So these are things that we feel that must be emphasized on, including the budget, which is the assembly, which is being kept under suspended animation. Of course, the president and the center will prepare that thing.
Okay, but so let me filter through what you've said. Of course, I can understand the stress and agitation, but let me filter through what you've said. Inflation is a problem, so what people are having to buy, which they have to live, literally bread and butter items, is a problem. And of course, the biggest overarching problem is security. You can't live if you can't open your shop, or you can't go to your workplace or go to your school. This is the biggest problem. Now, let me get a person who's been involved in these highly complex situations for the better part of 45 years, General Sudhakar. Now, we've been having this conversation, sir, you and I, for a long time now, 18 months. The situation has now evolved, but it seems in the last few days become uglier. Now we are seeing confrontation going on, not only between two communities, but confrontation going on with the security forces. What do we do at this stage, sir, to impose law and order?
Rishabh, good evening. Thank you for getting me to your show, and compliments to very distinguished panelists. A complex situation, we doesn't have quick solutions. A problem arising in a place like Manipur cannot be resolved by people sitting in Delhi. It is best left to the tactical. In military parlance, it's called as a tactical commander on ground will always find a practical solution. So having said that, couple of guidelines, thumb rules to handle such kind of critical issues. To me, it appears that the situation has been not created, but it has been conceived to bring about law and order, or it was perceived that this could be a good trigger to probe and find out whether things are conducive for restoration of law and order or not. This is my understanding, sitting in place like Jaipur, from open media sources. Now, is this step a correct step? Is the criticality assessed by the people on ground for restoration of law and order the right criticality? To me, it appears that situation definitely is not what it is being conceived or perceived as. Situation, to my understanding, is that it is fraught with suspicion. It is characterized by trust deficit. It is characterized by a fear of reprisal from unseen forces, fear of attack, fear of offense. Anyone can attack anybody at any place. So the security forces are also cannot be trusted. So this is a kind of an ambience which is prevailing, which is very difficult, and large number of looted arms and ammunition are also floating around in the environment. There are illegal routing in or penetration or infiltration of arms and ammunition. Narcotics is on. Land problem is going on. Likewise and like forth. So free movement is a central issue chosen by the president's rule to be one of the start points. There are many start points which are not visible to the common man.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, General. Let's get straight to the brass tacks, sir. Okay. Let's discuss it issue by issue. So now, in a sensitive security environment, the premise has been drawn that the national highways should be open to free movement, just like they are to you and me in any part of the country. Now, the premise sounds absolutely correct. If I want to do a peaceful demonstration, I should be allowed to do it, and no blockade should be present. But in a security tense situation, is this possible?
This is what I was coming to. These are steps for hard decisions. It is definitely possible by empowering the security apparatus available on ground and also taking preventive measure. When I talk about the preventive measure, there is a requirement to have an exit or an opening for strategic communication for forces which are perceived to be being marginalized. So it is very, very important. Do we have communication with the key leaders of the Kuki parties? We don't have. If we have, are they listening to us? So this is one point that I wanted to bring about. Second point that I wish to highlight is that the criticality of the critical issues is the opening of the highways. If that be so, there is no question of any compromise. They are the center of gravity where I have to apply my forces. I have to put my full might to make sure that the highways are actually kept open for freedom of movement of traffic for incoming as also for outgoing. If that is not possible, then if push comes to shove, I will apply all my resources and also the legal means and also the wherewithal available with me to make sure that there is no interference to the given task, which is not happening on the ground. So what is next? What do you do next? In the president's rule, is there a provision to actually apply CRPC 144? People more than 4 and above, they cannot move in groups, they cannot pelt stones. If so, do we have some remedial measure to take preventive action against this so that they contribute towards restoration of opening of the highway? Back to Rishabh.
Okay, all right. For people watching the broadcast who are not in it, and Vishwajit is actively speaking to the people on the Kuki side, so I'm going to ask him a question after this. But for people who are not in the moment, living the stress and living the fear right now, there's an original issue. The original issue which talks about what is the definition in the constitution or what is a particular tract of land that is delimited for a particular purpose, what is the status organized of a particular community, under which schedule. There's an original issue where these people should live, where they should have the rights to live. That's where we began. Then there is what happened yesterday, what happened last week, what happened the week before that. We are trapped in a vicious circle. We need to do something to set it to zero. So both things have to happen parallelly. We have to look at the original issue which started the problem. That's a very complicated conversation. But in the whirlwind of emotion that we are trapped in, because if somebody's died yesterday, try convincing their families to remain calm today. It's not easy. So let me get Vishwajit ji into that. Vishwajit ji, first of all, what are the conversations that you are having now with people in Manipur at this moment? What are their emotions and agitations right now?
See, the Kuki people are highly agitated right now because one young man has died yesterday, and he has died of a bullet injury, a bullet coming from the security forces, from CRPF to be in particular. Now, 2 days back on your channel, I had suggested that this march and all this free movement is not a good idea right now because nothing has been done as confidence building measure. No steps have been taken to normalize relationships and tempers between the communities. So this show of strength, display of strength, this forced peace, this march, so-called march, peace march, all this is not a good idea. I had said on that day, because this is not the time. Right now, much more needs to be done. If you want to open the highways, good, open them. But make sure that the highway is used for essential supplies, essential commodities. People in the relief camps, they don't have food and basic medicines. So those supplies should have been replenished first. Then some march or something could have been talked about. But fixing a date for it, that too after multiple warnings issued by various Kuki organizations that this is not welcome.
Okay.
The government went on with its, the government is in a habit of bad optics. They think it will turn out to be a good optic, but it turned out to be a very bad optic where a life was lost.
Okay. So Vishwajit, let me ask you a very pragmatic, very practical question, very straightforward question. In this case, when emotions are running high and when somebody's died and people have been injured, this is a serious situation. We also need government, we also need
I had
security
said
forces,
that
because in the end, the
on
law and order will be brought by the security forces in the also. So we need the security forces. So how
Yes,
do we
yes,
reset the
no.
conversation? How do we convert the confrontation into a conversation?
by talking properly, but not by issuing diktats, not by vilifying the other community, not by demonizing the other community, by talking sense. And this is wrong to say that Kuki people are not being talked to. The intelligence agencies, intelligence bureau, and home ministry officials, they are talking to all the Kuki leaders, all the Kuki MLAs, all the Kuki organizations, the various umbrella organizations, and even the SOO groups. They are all being talked with. So the talks are on, and all of them had suggested that please don't attempt any misadventure.
Okay, all right. Okay, now hold your thought. I know it's difficult. So for people again watching the broadcast, let me just sum up what has happened, right? The major highway, all right. There is a Kuki-led demonstration going on, which in part is blockading the highway. Now, we've seen highway blockades. It's not abnormal in demonstration that roads are blocked. They happen all over the country. Heck, I live in Delhi, where the roads and highways are blocked every few months for some agitation. The Meitei group says that the highway must be opened and we're going to organize a peace march. Okay, they call it a peace march, but we're going to organize a march that is going past where the protesters on the opposite community are sitting. General Sudhakar, now the security forces are in between. One group wants the highway closed and the right to continue to blockade and do a peaceful protest. The other group is insisting that we have the right to march on that same highway. Now, as a security force, what do you do? Because you don't want to issue ultimatums and diktats. But if people are not listening at the same time and they want to confront each other, how do you stand in between? Do you get beaten by both sides? What do you do?
It's a catch-22 situation. In my opinion, I personally feel that we need to keep the channels of communication open with the key important leaders, continue with the process of dialogue, exercise strategic restraint. Do not bulldoze your way through with the diktats of the superior headquarters coming from Delhi. Read the tactical situation on ground, keep your objective clear in your mind, and keep negotiating with the people. When you negotiate with the people, it is always advantageous to negotiate from the position of strength. In the instant case, when I talk about a position of strength, it is on high moral ground. How do you win the high moral ground with the agreed party? By giving, they call as tactical withdrawals are a start point for strategic victory. So at times, by giving a little bit of leeway to the aggrieved party, you're making them feel that yes, they have been given a lot. That actually gives you a good start point to negotiate for further making further penetration into the entire roadmap. So therefore, to summarize my articulation, all I would say, have patience, exercise strategic restraint, do not impose anything against the will and the desire or the demands of the aggrieved population, and negotiate with the people that this is a requirement of the order of the day.
Okay, all right, General Sudhakar, I need your word before I get the other two, because both of them have a strong opinion on this for obvious reasons. They're deeply embedded into this. It is obvious that we need to have free movement in the state. It is obvious that law and order has to precede everything else, all conversations. These are the obvious things. So what can be done, sir, that the Kukis who are actually blockading the highways in their protest feel that they do not need to protest or blockade a highway in order to be heard?
Perfect. That's a very relevant question. It is always better to actually take them on board in decision making. This process of Manipur has come to such a challenging phase that it is very, very difficult to find a practical and progressive kind of a solution. It is always better that the party which is opposing to the movement of the government must be taken on board as part of the dialogue process, and you keep throwing the problem at them that law and order has to be restored. But I have my own view, Rishabh, very quickly, if I may. Because you see the components, the ingredients of law and order being restored to, if they are not tackled or identified well in advance, they are bound to come back with force and with high detriment to the effectiveness of the security force. When I say this, what I mean is that the entire area of Manipur is not affected. There are selected areas. There is a need to divide the area into hypersensitive, sensitive, and sensitive. That I'm sure must have been done.
Yes.
But the biggest challenge is the weapons which are making through movements within, the looted weapons, the high-tech weaponry which are also floating around. Have we taken adequate measures? Is there a joint means of a kind of a police force or the security force operating in these kind of areas? If it is happening, fine. If it is not, also at times in
Okay.
such kind of sensitive situation, it is very important to take the Kuki Zo group also as party of your decision making.
Okay.
So, as
So,
to
okay. So let me, as I've been trying to disaggregate the issue, that there is an original larger picture issue, okay, from whence it's ostensibly all of this began, and what is then has spiraled, and now the problem is a grieving family. The problem is the injured security personnel, who can say, listen, we were trying to prevent two groups from having a go at each other. Imagine if the march had reached the protesters, then what would have happened if we had not been there? So we were also risking our lives to prevent bloodshed from happening. So we are now stuck. So now let me try to disaggregate from the other end. Mr. Chauba, now on the other side, where the original issue, how do we, in parallel to dealing with the day-to-day problems which are being necessitated by events that are sort of, I won't say fully under control right now, the original problem of which tracts of land should be under which schedule of the constitution and which tribe should get which recognition, how do we continue with that parallel conversation, sir?
What I would like to say is like Mr. Sudhakarji, what he has said before, totally agree with that. But as what the host is asking about, those are very problematic issues because we have the MLR and the LR Act, 1955. So that gives powers of land rights to the tribal people, which is about 90% of our state, and that the 10% is the valley. So if we have issues that can be resolved in the House Assembly, the floor of the House, so those things can be put up in a very amicable manner, instead of just hurling, what I want and what he wants, what they want. So we'll be stepping on each other's toes for as long as we keep throwing stones at each other. But there must be a deliberation of sorts with all the communities involved, and also with the legalities and the enforcements of the Constitution. The Constitution of India works here in Manipur. That's what we are asking. Please give us those rights. We want peace. We want democracy. We want our lives to be back in order. We want law and order to be restored. The other things, it can be worked out once the primary issues are settled. So it's like either you are putting the bullock cart before the bulls in one way.
Okay.
But
So what is the primary issue for you right now, as you see it?
Now it is up to the president, it is up to the governor to fully assess what is happening in Manipur. That should have been known. The intelligence reports are there. Every day, the security personnel, the Home Department is being briefed on what the people want and who are those people who are opposing what the other people feels to be right or wrong.
I've got enough gray hair. Okay, I've not done this as long as General Sudhakar and all have, but I've sat and observed this for long enough that when something starts going wrong, there are a host of interested parties and lumpen elements that jump in and hijack it, and the original people who had the original grouse get subsumed by agendas that they do not even understand and have nothing to do with and do not want to be party to.
Sure.
This is the truth of life, but we are stuck with it. So let me quickly get Vishwajit back into this conversation. Vishwajit, at a time when people are obviously upset and emotions are high, there will be people who are angry right now, okay? What kind of guidance and counseling can you provide? Now, there are legal things that can be done, but right now what we need is a conversation more than anything.
The question that you have asked right now, like what can be the solution? There is a solution for every situation. The Constitution of India and various state and central laws have solution for everything. All this could have been solved without demonizing anybody. All this could have been everybody's rights could have been ensured without causing or orchestrating what is going on right now. And what happened yesterday, responsibility solely rests with the central government, the Home Ministry, and correct and tell me if I am wrong, I challenge. It was this kind of adventure was advised against by Assam Rifles. Assam Rifles is the principal force on the ground there. They had advised against, they have in fact even tried to cancel all this. They had advised that please don't do this. And still they went ahead with this. It was an empty bus, empty Manipur state transport bus going to Churachandpur, which was burnt. Now, what's the point? What do you want to show? By sending an empty bus, you want to, assert your authority. Your authority is already there. Why engage or indulge in these optics? What do you want to show to the people? That you are in charge? Of course you are in charge.
Okay. So all of the above is true. So yes, the security forces and the technical term for this General Sudhakar will tell us. So yes, when marches or cavalcades are run by security forces, yes, it is also to show that they are there, all right, that they are present. The bottom line is we are now trapped in a vicious spiral. Okay, we have to now get ourselves out of it. It's not going to be easy. Now, General Sudhakar, the very difficult question of what should we do in the larger picture, I'm going to reduce it to what should we do in the next few days. Obviously, security has to be asserted, but at the same time, we cannot be having confrontation, despite the fact that there are people out there who are probably egging on confrontation, who are probably wanting to incite a confrontation. What do we do?
Absolutely, Rishabh. First and foremost thing is that we need to understand the complexity or the challenge in a comprehensive manner. And in order to find a practical solution, some kind of a template or a spectrum could be, I would like to suggest a very short term one, a medium term and a long term at different levels, strategic level, at intermediate level, at tactical level, at the people who are actually functioning on the ground. So when you have a spectrum like this, there are multiple issues which need to be addressed at the moment. Handling the aggrieved family who have lost, there is a person who's died in a particular family. That is the criticality which needs to be handled. Time is the best healer in such kind of situation. There are ways and means the security forces are absolutely abreast with. They know how to handle such kind of situations. They have to exercise restraint for the time being. There has to be a nucleus group which is to reach out, which I'm sure is happening through Assam Rifles, through 3CRP, but let there be only one agency handling such kind of thing, because these are all super sensitive. They're dealing with human beings. So this is one part. Second is compensation is to be given. There is a immediate requirement of compensation to be given out by the state government or by the governor. In fact, I would say the chief advisor or some very important person in such kind of situation, there is no harm in making a visit to the doorstep, going and giving the compensation by hand and looking after, say that we are there to look after. Don't worry, it has happened. No, it's a big loss, not only to
I'm sorry to disagree, sir, but compensation won't cut it right now, because then this is now becomes about justice. So it becomes a lot more complicated, and that you and I know this because we've seen situations like this in other parts of the country as well. I'm out of time, but I can only say this for people who are actually living and breathing this. The rest of us are a bit removed from this. But if you're living in Manipur, or have family living there, or have friends living there who are having to deal with this every day for the better part of 2 years now, this is not a forgotten problem. We are paying attention to it. We are here paying attention to it, having these conversations. Just be careful of rumor mongering. Just be careful of some people whom you do not know very well, who are doing the rumor mongering and are inciting confrontation. Inciting confrontation not just between Kuki Meitei, but between Kuki security forces or otherwise. Just be wary, because I have seen too many lumpen elements making hay while the sun shines. And the people who get hurt are generally innocent people. So we are not ignoring this problem. We are here having this conversation every day. We will keep chipping away. It is complex. Right now, we need to look after the aggrieved family. We also have to know that the security forces are in a very difficult position. They can't not do anything, but if they do anything and literally one shot gets fired, it can result in somebody dying. It's a very unhappy thing. But let's not close the conversation on this. We'll come back tomorrow as often as it does until we see some end goal to this. Thank you, gentlemen. See you in a minute.